May we have your name, sir?
My name is Doc Siegel.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a recording engineer for Gold Star Studios in Hollywood.
Siegel, have you heard the recordings that we just played through the other witness?
Oh, yes.
And have you sufficient technical experience to give us any opinion as to the likelihood that these could have been accidentally implanted?
Well, I think that my experience is quite extensive, both in recording and TV fields, audio-wise. And it's my considered opinion that they could not have been accidental.
Mr. Siegel, based on your experience, do you think it likely or even possible that these could be just sounds which, through coincidence, seem to reflect a tragic event or a death?
I would say offhand that it is possible for perhaps one or two to be accidental. But in the majority, no. I think that they actually were planted.
Have you ever, in your experience, uncovered accidental implantations like this in recordings?
Accidental? No. Never.
Thank you very much. Sir, may we have your name?
Cannon.
And what is your occupation?
I'm the program director of radio station WKNR.
Have you had occasion since the broadcast on October 12th, 1969, to receive any phone calls about the McCartney incident?
Yes, many phone calls. We've made many phone calls ourselves, too, called extensively to England.
Have you received any from people purporting to be connected with the Beatles?
We did on October the 22nd. We received a phone call in the morning about 10 o'clock, our time, from a man who said he was Paul McCartney. We were interested in the symbolism, if there was any, and why they had done certain things. And he said that there was no symbolism, nothing intended. It was very spontaneous.
Denied it all?
Yes, he did. Okay, Paul McCartney says, it's whatever anyone reads into it is what it is. It's, just because you create the sensationalism, why should you make anything of it by broadcasting it? It was your station that created this sensationalism and all that, and he said, rubbish. You gave the initial broadcast, which started it, and fed it with phone calls about me and letters about it. It's just one big drag having to deny it, and I wish you'd stop.
Sir, what is your name?
Peter Asher.
And do you know Paul McCartney, Mr. Asher?
Yes, I do. I've known him well for about 5 years.
Are you the brother of Jane Asher?
Yes, I am.
And was she at one time associated with Paul in some way?
Yes, she was, yes.
How well do you know him? Is he a close friend?
Yes, he's a close friend.
And so you've known a man who calls himself Paul McCartney both before and after November 1966?
Yes, I've known both of them.
You satisfied that he's alive?
Absolutely and completely. There's no doubt whatever that the whole business is fictitious.
Do you think that the Beatles have deliberately put a suggestion of death throughout their songs?
No, I do not. No, I don't.
Do you think all of these things that were pointed out by Mr. Labour are pure coincidence?
I think the clues are a mixture of coincidence. They're a mixture of things that are on the records and that if you listen to in a certain way could be interpreted in this light because of the theory. But I don't think that any of them are clues planted in order to suggest that Paul is dead.
Well, we've been told by a previous witness that the Beatles are a little bit prankish when they put together an album. Isn't that true?
Prankish in the sense that they're light-hearted. They don't prank in the sense of deliberately planning to deceive, no.
Mr. Asher, you claim, of course, that Paul is alive. That may well be so.
I know.
You also claim that the Beatles did not deliberately try to create this myth in order to
that is what
increase their publicity.
That is what I know to be true, yes.
But it has increased the publicity, hasn't it?
Well, only because all you people have taken it seriously enough to do all this incredible nonsense for an hour about something that really is just, not true, and in Paul's own words, is bloody stupid.
Life magazine, too, is guilty of incredible nonsense, is it not?
Yes, they are indeed.
And Time magazine is guilty of incredible nonsense.
Well, you can't blame them any more than one can blame you, because it's news. It's only news because people are stupid enough to want to believe it.
I see. Do you think that it does any good at all for the Beatles to be thus publicized about a very fascinating possibility?
I really don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you're probably right. Their record sales have probably increased because of this. But that's certainly something that doesn't concern them. They're not about to embark on some ridiculous publicity thing to try and sell more records. They've sold all the records they ever need to sell.
Yes, I understand. You are, as you have put it, a very close friend of Paul McCartney.
I am.
Well, isn't it a fact that even if you thought he was guilty of a little hoax here, that you wouldn't say so?
Oh, wow. You mean that I'm lying to continue with
No. I'm saying that if you suspected that this might be going on, I don't suggest that you're lying, but that you might be inclined to defend him in any event.
That's probably true, yes. If I really thought he was hoaxing, I'd probably back him up, but I swear to you that he is not, and that I know that he's alive, and that he didn't mean any of this to happen, nor did any of them.
So you say that you're not defending him because you don't have to, but if he were guilty of something, you probably would defend him anyway, and that is the basis on which we must...
No, that's a very unfair ending.
That isn't what's intended. Thank you, sir. What is your name, sir?
Sal Iannucci.
Where do you live?
Los Angeles.
By whom are you employed?
Capitol Records.
Is that the same Capitol Record company that publishes the Beatles albums?
That's right.
And in what capacity are you employed?
I'm president of Capitol Records.
What do you know about Paul McCartney being dead?
I've heard a lot of talk, and I've read about it, but I don't believe it.
What has happened to the sale of Beatle records since this wave hit the country, so to speak?
Well, the Abbey record has been selling well, but it was selling well before the actual rumor. It's a very outstanding record, which received a lot of critical acclaim and based on its own merits.
Did you say that you've had no increase in sales, felt no effect from all of this publicity?
Well, on the two records which have been discussed, the Magical Mystery and Sgt. Pepper, we've noticed some increase recently in the number of...
A sharp increase?
It would be substantial over what would be expected, but I'm sure that it's caused in part by the discussion and the conjecture as to whether McCartney...
Would you, as president of Capitol Records, participate in a hoax of this sort in order to increase sales?
No, I don't think we'd engage.
Right, and do you say that none has been perpetrated to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Your name, sir?
Alan Klein. I'm the president of Abco Industries.
You represent these Beatles we've been talking about?
Yes, we do.
And for how long have you represented them?
About 9 months.
Are you abreast of their business situations as a rule?
Yes, I am.
Is one of the Beatles that you represent Paul McCartney?
Yes, he is.
And how long have you known him?
It's about January of 1969.
You were never introduced to a man claiming to be Paul McCartney prior to November of 1966?
No, I wasn't.
Did you listen to the tape of the phone call to Mr. Kennan that was supposed to be Paul?
Yes, it did.
And was it?
No.
Do you know who it was?
I think I do.
Can you tell us?
I think it's Tony Bramwell, the promotion man.
And why do you think he would make such a call?
I think that you have a lot of people with no authority who make a lot of statements about the Beatles because they're interested in their own self-adornment.
Do you think the Beatles are in any way profiting, according to your knowledge of their finances, from the intense public interest in these albums?
I would tell you this, that if what you were suggesting and what some other medias are suggesting is the truth, they would be harmed a great deal more. They don't have to stoop to this type of publicity in order to financially reward themselves.
Well, Mr. Klein, absent any commercial interest in the product of all this publicity, do you think they might be up to just some prankery?
I'll tell you, I think that, quite honestly, this type of press is something that really annoys them. They don't really have to do anything special or specific to get press.
You say they're not that kind of guy?
That's right.
All right, then I ask you, why has Paul McCartney not said, okay, look, here's Scotland Yard, they have my prints, here's my fingers, they say I'm the same guy, let's stop the nonsense. He hasn't done that.
If you would guarantee me that every single person who would talk about these particular type of statements would categorically stop and cease and desist, he'd do it.
This, then, is pretty much the case on the death of Paul McCartney. What does it show? It certainly does not show that he's dead. The inferences drawn by the witnesses, because of some very curious statements found and other clues in the record albums that the Beatles produced, do not show the fact of death at all. Indeed, it's almost impossible to conceive that a man of the stature of Paul McCartney could be accidentally killed in the public and not learn of it. On the other hand, our technician witness has said very clearly that those sounds, strange as they are and suggestive as they are, could not have gotten there by accident. Are people digging too hard to try to prove something that they only suspect? That's for you to judge. But we might say this. It is perfectly evident that if the Beatles wanted to, they could have, by this time, have completely foreclosed this rumor. And such evidence has not been forthcoming from their end.
1969, late. New Zealand recording artist Shane covers Terry Knight's St. Paul. It becomes a #1 hit for Shane in his home country. None other than Paul McCartney sent Shane a congratulatory telegram.
By the sea, thinking I was free. Did I hear you call, or was I dreaming then, St. Paul? I don't believe in Beatles.
'70, November 30th. George Harrison releases All Things Must Pass. Many of the songs on this triple album set were originally written while the Beatles were still together. On the third disc is a song titled It's Johnny's Birthday, recorded by both Harrison and Ringo Starr. It is said to contain another clue about McCartney's death. Did Paul McCartney actually perish in an automobile accident in the 1960s? Or was this whole thing some macabre marketing ploy, or a twisted joke spread by the Beatles themselves? Even nearly 20 years after the rumour first received widespread attention, George Harrison slipped in a reference to the hoax in his 1987 music video for When We Was Fab. George Harrison asked his former bandmate Paul McCartney to participate in the video for When We Was Fab, along with Ringo Starr. Paul wanted to take part but was unable to work it into his schedule. Paul told Beatle friend Bill Harry and author Andrew Reeve he'd put someone else in the walrus costume and tell everyone it was me. We've always had fun with the walrus thing. We don't leave many false trails, but the walrus has always been one of them.
On the When We Was Fab video, I read in this magazine, Beatles Fan, that Paul McCartney had said in like a London interview that he wanted to play the role of the walrus. And I noticed that as the camera pulls back, there's Ringo, you, and the walrus with the left-hand bass in the shot, just as a guy walks across with John Lennon's Imagine album cover. Now, is that in a reunion? Is Paul in the walrus mask or not?
Well, here's another clue for you all. The walrus was Paul.
Excellent.
Will it make you like the video anymore if you know it's Paul in there, or could it just be like B.B. King or Alfred Hitchcock? Doesn't really matter, you know, but
Doesn't really matter.
But it really is Paul, but he's a bit shy lately.
Or is there another answer, that the whole story was fan-created? Fans seeking to explain the changes and all-too-human foibles they were seeing in their heroes as the reality that the Beatles were splitting apart and would soon be no more. The worshippers tearing down their gods in search of answers and an explanation for what it was all about.
We can either write a song with just simple meaning or maybe a great meaning, but whatever the meaning is when we record the song, it always has a greater meaning or more meanings by the time the listener puts his meaning onto it.
People just take our music and, you know, in a line, and we just sort of say, yeah, she was just 17. And they read everything into that, you know. So she was a 17-year-old nymphomaniac working on the streets of Broadway. But, you know, what we meant is she's just 17. But it might mean all the other as well. I don't know, you know. I've no idea if there's any Aeolian cadences and, you know, miasmic climaxes and all of that. I mean, we're the last people to know about our songs, because the pop world's never heard the pop world as such. Because we can't, you know, it's like if you look at a snapshot of yourself, you're looking at what tie you were wearing, or whether you were looking nice in the snapshot. You know, but anyone else would just take the snapshot and say, oh, that's good, that's a snapshot of Tony. You know, really just always think of ourselves as just happy little songwriters. Just little rockers, you know, just playing in a rock group. But it gets more important than that.
One thing is certain, even if Paul McCartney did not die all those years ago, and that is that the rumour itself continues to live on.
Those weeks was right when they said you was dead. Well, I'd rather see you dead. They might as well be dead.
As her love is dead.
I know what it's like to be dead. Some are dead and some are living.
Died in the church and was buried along with Father Mackenzie, wiping the dirt from his hands as he walks from the grave. No one was saved.
Nothing to do to save his life.
Clang, clang, Maxwell's silver hammer made sure that he was dead.
Wanna die if I ain't dead already. Woo!
Oh, well, you know, I nearly fell down and died.
Will she still believe it when he's dead? It's far too late when they pass away. Now my advice for those who die: declare the pennies on your eyes. Oh boy, when you're dead, you don't take nothing with you but your soul. It is not dying. It is not dying.